When we talk about Scotland, you think of bagpipes, men in skirts, and movie landscapes, right? But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Scotland has a surprising side that few people know about. Did you know that the world's first clone was born here? Did you know that medical students were forced to drink their own pee? And how about learning about the macabre ritual that inspired Batman's Joker smile? Get ready for stories that will challenge everything you think you know about this fascinating place. Number 1. Location and geographical data. Scotland is located in Western Europe, in the north of the island of Great Britain, and is surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean and the North Sea, which contributes to its unique coastal landscapes. It is also the second largest country in the United Kingdom. Yes, Scotland is part of the United Kingdom, something many people don't know. But wait a minute. United Kingdom, Great Britain, England. Isn't it all the same thing? Yes and no. The United Kingdom is a union of 4 countries which, in some situations, is treated as if it were a single country. The full name already gives you a clue: the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. This means that the United Kingdom is made up of 2 main parts. Great Britain, which is the island where England, Scotland, and Wales are located, and Northern Ireland, which occupies part of the island of Ireland. Each of these countries has its own cultures, traditions, and capitals. Now that you know the geography, let's go back to Scotland. With an area of approximately 78,000 square kilometers, Scotland is famous for its majestic mountains, especially the Highlands, located in the north of the country. This region enchants with its impressive landscapes and is home to the famous Glenfinnan Viaduct, the iconic setting for the Harry Potter train. However, Scotland isn't just about its mountains. The country is also home to vast lochs and hundreds of islands. There are around 790 islands, of which 130 are inhabited, and more than 30,000 lochs, including the world-famous Loch Ness, which will be our next stop. Number 2. Loch Ness Monster. When it comes to Scotland, it's impossible not to mention one of its most famous legends, the Loch Ness Monster, or simply Nessie for short. This mysterious inhabitant was first mentioned in the year 565, almost 1,500 years ago. Since then, there have been countless reports of sightings, fueling the mystery surrounding this legendary creature. In 2003, a television crew carried out an investigation in Loch Ness using divers and sonar. The result? No evidence was found. But believe me, the search continues to this day. Recently, to mark the 90th anniversary of the first expedition, the Loch Ness Center organized the Quest event. And yes, there is a center dedicated exclusively to studying the little monster. Modern equipment such as infrared cameras and drones have been used to try and detect any movement. Even NASA got in on the act, but despite all the effort, the mystery continues. Number 3. The Land of the Unicorn. Following on from the mythical animals, let's talk about unicorns. Yes, unicorns. That magical creature, half horse, half legend, that appears in movies and fairy tales. For many people, the unicorn is just a curious figure, but for the Scots, it has a much deeper meaning. It's the national symbol of Scotland. And if you find that curious, you should know that the unicorn even has its own day, April 9th, National Unicorn Day. In Scotland, you'll see unicorns on coats of arms, monuments, and even castles. At the Palace of Holyrood House, for example, a unicorn guards the entrance like a true protector. And speaking of protectors, let's move on to the next curiosity. Number 4. The night penguin. It sounds like a joke, but it's true. In Scotland, a king penguin called Niels Olav lives in Edinburgh Zoo and is third in rank in the Norwegian army. He's even been knighted. The correct name, of course, is Major General Sir Niels Olav III. And what does Norway have to do with it? It all began in 1913, when the first king penguin was given as a gift to the zoo by a Norwegian tycoon. In 1961, Norwegian Army Lieutenant Niels Egerlien was visiting Edinburgh Zoo and was enchanted by the penguin's gait, which reminded him of his soldiers. So a penguin was adopted by the Norwegian Guard and named after Niels and King Olaf V. Obviously, the penguin is replaced over the years because the bird only lasts 26 years. Since 1972, Niels Olav has been promoted 8 times, rising from mascot to Major General in 2023. Whenever the Norwegian Guard visits Edinburgh, they make a point of visiting him, and the penguin loves the attention. He's so chic that he even has a bronze statue in the zoo and another at the King's Guard base in Oslo. Number 5. Dolly. And last but not least, when it comes to animals, we can't forget Dolly. I think everyone has heard of Dolly, right? The first cloned sheep and probably the most famous mammal in the history of science. Well, not many people know, but the sheep was born on July 5, 1976, in Scotland at the Roslin Institute. What many people don't realize is that Dolly was the result of more than 270 attempts to bring her to life, and so she became a true milestone in science. Dolly lived for 6.5 years, and you can currently see her at the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh, where she is exhibited with the prestige she deserves. Number 6. Whiskey country. And now neither animal nor vegetable. Let's talk about humans. The Scots are known for being extremely friendly, curious, and of course, loving a good chat. And if you're lucky enough to meet a Scot in a pub, be prepared. Keeping up with their beer or whiskey can be a real challenge. And speaking of whiskey, there's no one to beat when it comes to this iconic drink. Scotland is the birthplace of whiskey and is world famous for its quality production. The distillation of this drink dates back centuries, with records dating back to 1494, where an order from the king called for the production of 500 bottles of aqua vitae, or water of life in Latin. In the early days, the first whiskies were very strong and distilled almost exclusively by monks, who didn't give the drink time to mature. At the time, whiskey was considered a remedy capable of treating everything from smallpox to paralysis. With the passage of time and the dissolution of the monasteries, the distillation process was refined by the Scottish people, transforming whiskey into the elegant and complex drink we know today. Today, the country is home to some of the oldest and most renowned distilleries in the world, such as the iconic Johnnie Walker. And here's another curiosity. Remember we mentioned the water of life? In Gaelic, it's called uisge beitha, which over time was mispronounced until it became what we know today as whiskey. Number 7. The Country of Redheads. Want another curious fact? Then here goes. If you think Ireland is the country of redheads, prepare to be surprised. Scotland actually has the highest proportion of redheads in the world. Around 13% of the population sport the famous red hair, and approximately 40% carry the recessive gene that can result in this trait. This means that, as you walk through the streets of Edinburgh or Glasgow, there's a good chance you'll come across many Scots proud of their vibrant, unique locks. Number 8. Edinburgh. Speaking of Edinburgh, it's worth stopping to talk a little more about this fascinating city, which is the capital of Scotland. Steeped in history and culture, the city's historic centre, which includes the medieval Old Town and the Georgian New Town, has been declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Edinburgh is also famous for hosting the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, the largest arts festival in the world, where artists from all over the world showcase their performances in the city's theatres, streets, and pubs. But Edinburgh's real charm lies in its narrow streets and alleys, known as closes, which hide stories from centuries gone by. One of the emblematic sites is the Centre for Carbon Innovation, where Sir Arthur Conan Doyle studied medicine. If you're wondering who Sir Arthur is, there's only one name: Sherlock Holmes. Conan Doyle is world famous for his 60 stories about Sherlock Holmes, inspired by his teacher Joseph Bell, who used peculiar practices, such as making students taste urine, to teach the importance of observation. Number 9. Lava Castle. Continuing our journey, let's talk about the iconic Edinburgh Castle, or as it's known, Castle Rock. And no, we're not talking about the home of the Lannisters, although Game of Thrones also had scenes shot on Scottish soil. Edinburgh Castle is one of Scotland's greatest symbols, and undoubtedly the capital's most famous tourist attraction. Here's a curious fact. Did you know that it sits on top of an extinct volcano? The rock on which the castle is built serves as a cap for this volcano, which last erupted around 340 million years ago. In addition to its impressive location, the castle has been home to important historical figures since the 12th century. From the 17th century onwards, it became a strategic military base. Today, Edinburgh Castle is a renowned museum and holds the title of the most visited and well-paid tourist attraction in the whole of Scotland. Number 10. Kilt. On the subject of the war, let's talk about the kilt, the famous Scottish skirt. It may sound strange, but it is traditional for men who wear a kilt not to wear underwear. It is believed that this practice dates back to the First World War and arose as a military tradition, although there is not much evidence as to exactly how it began. Humorously, those who follow this tradition are considered true Scots. The only exception to this rule is the Highland Games, which is our next topic. Number 11. Highland Games. The Scots have their own version of the Olympics, called the Highland Games, a festival held annually in the mountains of northern Scotland. The history of this event dates back to the 11th century during the reign of Malcolm III. He organized a race to the top of a mountain to choose the fastest and strongest man as his messenger. Over time, the event evolved from military training to a celebration of Scottish traditions and culture. Nowadays, competitors from all over the world test their skills in challenges such as the log throw, hammer throw, and sandbag race, all, of course, wearing a kilt, but this time with underpants. Number 12. The Birthplace of Golf. Did you know that Scotland is the birthplace of golf, one of the oldest and most prestigious sports in the world? Originally, the first golf courses were far from the glamour of today. Players used stones, which were hit with rudimentary sticks over uneven terrain, including streets and even cemeteries. The sport became so popular that in 1457, King James II decided to ban its practice, claiming that it was distracting the population from more important activities. But in 1502, King James VI not only reversed the ban, he also became the first monarch to play the sport, solidifying golf as an essential part of Scottish culture. The famous St. Andrew's Old Course, the world's first 18-hole course, came into use around 1552 and is still considered one of the most iconic. Number 13. Glasgow. While Edinburgh is the historic heart of Scotland, Glasgow is the industrial and cultural heart. The country's largest city has transformed itself from a former industrial center into a vibrant metropolis, famous for its music scene, art, and architecture. The city is home to numerous galleries, such as the Gallery of Modern Art, as well as hosting international cultural events. But Glasgow has some intriguing curiosities. Did you know that the smile-shaped scar of the villainous Joker, Batman's enemy, was inspired by the Glasgow smile? This brutal form of torture was used at the end of the 19th century when rival gangsters carved macabre smiles on their victims' faces. Another curiosity. In 2007, Uncle Scrooge was included in the list of prominent citizens of the city since, according to the comics, he is originally from Glasgow. And finally, Glasgow is the only city in Scotland with a subway, and its trains are orange, something quite different. Number 14. The world's shortest commercial flight. And while we're on the subject of unusual transportation, what can you do in 1 minute and 14 seconds? In Scotland, that's enough time for an airplane to take off and land on the world's shortest commercial flight. The route between the islands of Westray and Papa Westray in the Orkney Islands takes less than 2 minutes. And believe me, the record for the journey was once just 53 seconds. This makes this flight a very unusual tourist attraction. You could even say that brushing and flossing your teeth takes longer. Number 15. The boat elevator. And to conclude our list today, let's talk about water transportation, specifically a tool that helps boats. When you think of elevators, you immediately think of those that take you from one floor to another, right? But what about a boat elevator? In Scotland, there is the Falkirk wheel, the only rotating boat elevator in the world. It was created to solve the 25-meter gap between two canals. And just for the record, this height corresponds to approximately a 12-story building. So it's not just any gap. In the past, boats had to pass through 11 locks, a type of hydraulic step that allows boats to go up or down rivers with uneven levels. The problem was that making this detour took almost a whole day for those on the boat. After years of bureaucracy and canal closures, British Waterways proposed an innovative solution to connect the canals quickly. And so was born a colossus with over 1,000 tons of steel and 15,000 bolts, costing a whopping £20 million. Today, as well as being functional, it is a famous tourist attraction. And so ends our incredible journey through Scotland, a country that goes far beyond myths and legends. If you enjoyed exploring Scotland with us, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next adventures in this bello mundo. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.